Thank you all for joining us for our, what month are we in? We're in August. We're the last day of August.
Last day.
It's been
Hey,
wild.
everybody.
And we're going to get started with this long weekend a little early. I want everyone just to sort of relax, have a little fun today, because we are talking about something super fun. And that is getting your students financed. So I'm super excited to have Matt Chin with us. I know Matt from LinkedIn and the conference circuit. And it turns out we service a lot of the same clients. We're in the same space. So I thought, why not have another financial aid webinar? This is our second one that we've done. And I'm really excited. So Matt, introduce yourself to our audience today.
Hey, everybody. So great to be here with you all today. I'm Matt Chin. I'm coming to you from Denver, Colorado. Jen, I want to give you a special thanks and kudos and shout out. You're an inspiration to our industry. We appreciate everything you do for us. And so thank you for having me. I'm honored and thrilled. And thanks everybody for joining.
Awesome. Thank you for being on. Rhonda is already up in the comments and said hello to us. So
nice. Hey, Rhonda.
We are going to be launching a poll here shortly, which is new to our webinars, but we just want to be a little more interactive and ask you all some questions about financial aid. Let's go ahead though and jump in, because I think the number one hurdle to enrollment is finances. And I hear admissions say all the time, like, they come in, the tour's great. I know if they can get packaged, they're going to enroll. That is usually like the top thing. So why not talk more about that? I feel like, it's something everyone in the school is talking about. So let's chat about it. And Matt, how is your company? Let's go ahead and talk right now about the difference between financial aid versus loans versus in-house financing, which is what you guys do. Kind of give us the overarching view about that.
Of course. I think it's a great place to start, Jen. And I think the main, there's four main financing options out there. Typically, first, grants and scholarships. Then secondly, need-based federal student loans, direct loans. Thirdly, typically funded private student loans. And then the fourth, and where I'm so excited and passionate about, and where our main space is, what our company does to help, is cash pays, payment plans, in-house financing, in-house loans, in-house private loans. So that's typically, and that's kind of typically the way it goes, Jen, from 1 to 4 in that order. But like you said, I think it's such a pertinent topic. I think, I represent UNISA. We're a servicer, so we're dealing with a number of borrowers, and I think there is generally some misconception there. Just to start, hey, is financial aid free? A Pell Grant does not have to be paid back, but a federal loan does. Right. So I think it is such a pertinent topic.
It's also funny what you said really quickly about the four, because what I'm hearing from financial aid reps is it's not really in that order anymore. A lot of people are afraid of student loans. They don't want to deal with interest rates, and they really are skipping that. And they're saying, we're not doing a loan. If I get a grant, great. That's, free money. But other than that, I kind of do want to do in-house financing. Are you hearing the same sort of thing?
I am, it's interesting because I even have family and friends and loved ones say, hey, Matt, but we're pursuing higher education. What do we do? What do you recommend? Do we take out federal student loans? And I've kind of been with you, Jen, a little bit with maybe forego them unless you absolutely have to. There's typically an origination fee on federal student loans, currently anywhere from roughly 1 to 4.3%. The current interest rate is anywhere from roughly 5.5% to 8%, for example, for a Parent Plus loan. But I connected with a 3-campus school this week. They have barber and cosmetology 15-month programs. And I thought it was interesting because a financial aid guru, a good friend of mine that's been in financial aid for almost 35 years, she said she does recommend to some students and families, if you're looking to build your credit profile, if you haven't really had anything on your credit before, it might be good to at least take out one federal student loan. ideally a subsidized loan, because it can help build a student's credit profile if they've never had a credit profile, or if they're working toward building that. Because typically with the federal loan, no in-school payments, no payments during grace period, only during repayment. So there's a time there where it's showing on credit as positive as current. So I thought that was very interesting.
Yeah.
But I hear what you're hearing out there too, Jen, and I think it's interesting because if a student has cash in their family and they can pay in full, avoid interest, avoid origination fee, that's
Sure.
kind of what I've been, talking to my folks about, to say, gosh, if you can pay interest free, that's a good deal,
And it's going to be, let's be very clear. I mean, as an FA rep, it's really about saying, these are your options.
Right.
Right.
100%.
We're not pushing anyone to do anything, but it really is great to go ahead and start giving people options. Now, there are schools also,
Sure.
Matt, not accredited, that do not offer financial aid yet.
Sure.
And that really is where your company can shine for them.
Sure, 100%. And I've truly, Jen, I've been honored to be in higher ed for 15 years now. It's flown by, but I truly believe in and see how schools can offer compliant, student-friendly payment plans and financing programs. And there's some risk involved, obviously, of non-payment. Anything that a school is financing to a student or extending to them, whether it's a 3-month payment plan or a year or 3 years, there's always a risk of non-payment. But I'm confident, and I've seen so many schools roll out a robust program that's compliant, that's student friendly, that has great incentives and provisions in it to basically do everything that they can, and their servicer can, if they're with the servicer, to prompt collections and reduce and avoid defaults. So I'm a big supporter of it.
That is what we're going to be talking about today, just so everyone knows, because someone already, had asked in the chat about, they're a new school. Are we going to be able to talk about financing for them?
Sure.
Yes. A couple months ago, I did a webinar with financial aid services with Rhonda
Sure.
and David over there.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
so you can go on our YouTube, you can watch that. That one was really focused more on student loans and grants. Sure. And going through FAFSA, which is awesome. That really is how the majority of beauty school students end up paying for their school. So,
Sure.
Fantastic. But generally what we see a lot of times in beauty schools is a gap. Okay.
Sure.
So the grant only covers so much.
Sure.
Maybe they take out a loan, maybe they don't, maybe they do a parent loan. There sometimes is a gap, and that is
100%.
Guys, that's where we lose the student. That really is, we lose that enrollment. Like they can't figure that out. Then we have schools that are chasing people for payment. So today we're going to be talking a lot about payment plans. Matt is going to be sharing some insights with his schools and how they do that. I'm going to have a lot of questions around that. So we're definitely going to be going there today. So top level grants, it's money from the government. You don't have to pay that back. Student loans, you do, but you don't start paying them back until 6 months after graduation.
Correct. Yep.
And so that really is sort of like top level. And then we're going to talk about some of these ways that Matt's company, other companies out there, can also help in that area. I'm going to go ahead and launch a poll right now, you guys. Wait, I was going to, it's gone. Hold on. Oh, wait, there it is. Okay. We're new here. I'm new to the polls. Okay. Is it up? Am I doing it right? Relaunch. Okay, hold on. Is it up now? Yes.
There it is.
Okay. The first one is, do you offer in-house financing? Please indicate if you do payment plans, whether it's monthly, 3 times a year, whatever it is, in-house financing. And then the second question is, are you offering Sally Mae loans at your school? The third question is, do you ever take out private loans do students ever take out private loans? So do you ever meet with a lead who decides they're going to go their own route, whether it's through a bank or some sort of lender, to get a private loan to cover? And then the last one is, when do you push the lead to complete their FAFSA? And so I understand that sometimes people are having people commit to it before, and then they deal with FAFSA, meaning this is the school for you. They're signing their enrollment paperwork, and then they go through FAFSA. Then there's another school of thought with lots of schools where it's
Sure.
the other way. They're like, well, people aren't going to buy a car if they don't know how much it costs. So let's do the same thing with financial aid. Let's have them
Right.
create say, hey D, let's have them do FAFSA and then do the enrollment paperwork. If you don't offer financial aid, you can just, leave that one alone. We still got your other answers. So that is what we're seeing. This is interesting. Okay. I wonder if I can share results. Again, I'm new here, but I can see results coming in. Do you offer in-house financing? 75% are saying yes.
Wow.
We like that, Matt, right? That's good.
Absolutely.
That's good.
Absolutely. Yes.
Do you offer Sally Mae loans? We're seeing 14% are saying yes.
Wow.
81% said no. And
Sure.
5% said we used to, but not anymore.
Sure. I've heard that a lot.
Okay,
Absolutely.
perfect. And do your students ever take out private loans to cover the cost?
This will be interesting.
This is the one where Matt and I were like, I really want to know what people are doing here. 38% are saying yes.
Sure.
48 rarely, and 14% never. And then when do you push the lead to complete FAFSA? 76% say before official enrollment. Guys, I like the way those ones think. I'm pro before enrollment. And then 14% are after they've committed to enrollment. So that is what we're showing there. I'm going to go ahead and end that poll. Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys. I think, Jen, if I may, it's interesting to me because I totally get the 25% for the first question that are not offering any in-house financing. And over the years, believe me, I've talked to schools and they say, Matt, we're educators, we're not banks, we don't want to be in the financing business. And I get that. But I just feel like nowadays, so many of our schools were forced to offer some type of financing, whether it's a short or long-term payment plan, an in-house loan. But I wonder for those 25%, I get their caution and I respect it. But are you, like you hit on, Jen, are you maybe passing up any students? If you could offer some type of plan or be able to bridge that gap, could you perhaps enroll in more students? Could you perhaps enhance your cash flow? Could you perhaps reduce your attrition and get more students to the finish line? So I've kind of worked with so many schools over the years, which has been a privilege and honor to hear their story, to say, gosh, they got through AY1, second AY, there was a gap. We don't offer any financing. They couldn't finish, So it's interesting. And the private loans too.
Let's chat about that too. So let's chat a little bit, Matt, about a school decides, okay, maybe we're doing financing or, maybe we're only going to allow them do up to so much. How does that work? Whether it is a gap or the full $20,000 tuition or, $5,000 or $20,000 or $600, whatever it is.
Sure.
How are schools today doing that in-house?
That's kind of the beauty of it, because it can be totally customized by school to meet their needs, to meet their program, their student demographic, their location. And I see everything, Jen, from you must pay in full over your program length, which is pretty popular, but I see schools extend some out of school payments and financing. Some extend months and years into the future. Some cap it. For example, I work with a 4-campus beauty school that you have to pay in full during your program length. If not, they'll extend you 3, believe it or not, out of school payments. That's it. But interestingly, just those 3 extra payments, it makes the monthly payment amount more manageable. In some cases, they're enrolling more students. In some cases, if they're capping them at the pay in full during your enrollment, they lose some students there because some say, I can't commit to the monthly payment. So, the figures show the shorter you can cap repayment, typically the better. If you're extending 6, 7, 10-year loans, in-house loans, those may be tougher to collect on than ones that have, say, a year of out of school payments or 2 years or 3. So that's really, Jen, what gets me excited. And I work with literally dozens of different in-house financing models. Something very popular nowadays is interest-free in school and then an interest accrual out of school. And again, there's all these little tips and best practices so that you could prompt a student to pay in full before they complete, for example, interest-free within that model. Or like you mentioned, Jen, the 6-month grace on federal loans, give them a chance to pay in full before federal student loans kick in. So they're not perhaps managing their payment plan as well as federal loans when those kick in. But I see everything you could think of, Jen. I advise schools to provide incentives if possible to students, repayment incentives, and that can look like a reduction of interest for folks that are on auto pay. If they have a parent co-signer, sign with them. I've seen schools offer an incentive if a student graduates on time or completes exit counseling. So these are some of the really neat things I've seen that schools can do to help prompt collections, get students and financial aid excited about their financing. And commonly reducing interest is a big one there. But yeah, that's the beauty of
And
it,
it's up to
because you
the
can truly
school.
customize it.
This to me, I think, is something I didn't really understand, Matt, until we started talking. Was because I asked, like, what is your program? How do you do this? And you very much like, it is not up to us. It is up to the school what they want to do. You can say you
100%.
got to pay it all within 6 months, or you can say a year,
Yep.
or you can say 2 years. It really is. So is that what you do when a school decides to work with you? Is that you sit down and you really customize, what does this look like for you? And then of course your professional opinion based on other clients you work with.
100%. We guide them with best practices and compliance. Here's what we recommend. And if schools, like Jen, say, hey, we're not really sure what we should do. Here's our situation. Here's our program. What do you think? Then we can say, well, here's some models that are working really well. But 100%, that's the beauty of it. We can customize it. It's all up to the school, because it's not our financing. We're just helping the school set it up and then service and collect on it. So they kind of tell us, here's exactly what we want, here's what we need. And so that's what's been really neat about it, because we can truly build a custom program for any school to meet any of their needs. And then again, we kind of guide them along the way. Hey, that, in our expert opinion, compliance wise, that might be a little too high of an interest rate. That might be a little too high of a late charge. Here's what we see that's working. Here's what we see that's compliant and safe, because we want schools, that financing, it's a compliance topic. It's a regulatory topic. We advise schools to stay under the radar to ensure their compliance. And even the regulators tell us, student-friendly programs that are designed to succeed, that's what they want to see. So that's what we help schools with. Hey, we want you to set up a compliant program that's designed to succeed.
Let's talk a little bit then about what someone had mentioned in the chat, because I know you guys are licensed in every state, right? This is a nationwide program that you guys offer.
As many as we're required to currently.
Gotcha.
This is kind of might be a mind blown topic here, but basically student loan servicers like us, we now must be licensed in certain states. While public schools and state schools are exempt from any, if they're servicing their own loans in-house, proprietary schools may be liable to be licensed as a servicer. And I talked to owners about this and directors, and it doesn't quite make sense to a lot of schools, because they say we're a school. Obviously, we're not a loan servicer. But that's some of the new regulations. It started in California. It's expanded to about 15 states and growing literally every other month. There's a new state roughly. But I caution you guys, if you're originating private education loans, which, remember, that's an interest-free payment plan that extends beyond 12 months. That technically, that is a private education loan. Even if you're not loaning the student money, it's unfunded. It's just an interest-free payment plan. But I encourage you guys to be careful, because nowadays, if you're servicing your loans, and further, it doesn't depend on where your school is located. It's where your student moves to or resides to. So like you said, Jen, in theory, if you have a school in California and your alumni moves and relocates after graduation and completion, you need to be compliant in all states. So that's something that's new, that's out there. It's so new. It's still a little bit under the radar, but I do encourage schools, and schools that are grasping it now are saying, gosh, do we keep servicing our loans in-house? Do we go obtain 15 and more licenses? It's costly. There's penalties, there's annual reviews. Mainly the cost is substantial. So that's something I do encourage you guys, if you're truly servicing your own private education loans in-house, take a look at licensing. California has it spelled out nice and cleanly. It's DFPI, their website. And all the licensed servicers are listed. You'll see some schools, because I talked to some attorneys and CPAs and school owners, and they go, you got to be kidding me. This can't be a new real thing, but it is. But that's where a servicer might help you, so you don't have to go down that path of dealing with licensing. And it's very innocent. Servicing to these regulators is considered collecting a payment, presenting a bill, discussing past due. It's some of the most innocent practices. So that's what's kind of scary about it. A lot of schools say, well, sure, I collect payment. I talk to my student if they're past due. You know, some of the new regulations are saying, well, you're servicing if it's a true private loan.
Interesting. Okay, so then
Yeah.
Jackie put in the comments, because I want to make sure you're able to respond to this. AZ, Arizona post-secondary only lets you give 12 months. How do you offer the in-house longer?
Sure.
She said the incorrect information is being said, which I don't think it is. Let's just go ahead and clarify that. The in-house loan terms must be approved by the board.
Sure.
Yeah.
And I think what I'm hearing there, so if your payment plan is less than 12 months, that you're sort of under the radar there. If it extends beyond, it's regulated as a private education loan. So that makes sense, Jackie, because I think a lot of schools are saying, well, hey, we're not extending private loans, we're not a lender, we're not servicing them. So that's some way you can, and you know, further, there's disclosures. So if you're offering a 15-month interest-free payment plan, technically that's a private education loan. Technically you are to provide disclosures to students, Truth in Lending Act disclosures, a self-certification form, some type of retail sales or prom note contract. And believe it or not, I mean, it can be 15 pages of fine print nowadays. There's so many state and federal verbiage that's required. And if you discover student loans, their private loan doc, you can Google it. It's out there, the application and all the docs. You'll see what I'm talking about. There's a ton of fine print. It's so much words and disclosures and paperwork. But Jackie, I think that's what I'm reading from your comment there. And like you're saying, if it's to go longer, technically that's a private education loan, and you have different disclosures, and that's where you're getting into the ballpark of, is our school a lender? We're offering loans. Are we servicing them? Do we need a licensed servicer? And so on.
So, and I
hope that answered your question.
Nicole said, are you approved for Ohio?
Absolutely. I don't believe there's a servicing license yet in Ohio. So kind of different things too we're talking about here. We're a servicer. I'm talking about student loan servicer licensing. So that's one piece. And everyone, the financing, it's not, UNISA and the students. We're not the lender or creditor. You
Right.
guys would be your institution. So there's not any servicing requirement in Ohio that I'm aware of currently. Some states do have lender registration requirements. However, though, if you're truly making private loans between you and your students, you may be required to be registered in that state. And Ohio could be one of them. I think Kathy has a good question too.
Oh yeah, go ahead. Well, another one asked another state, Utah. Do you know? Should we just list them? Do you know?
No licensing, but again, be careful with, registration. And we're kind of getting in the weeds a little bit. I can help you guys out anytime with your specific state. But the main thing is, if you are truly making private education loans between you and your students, which a lot of schools are, I mean, nearly all of my school clients are, if you're servicing them in-house, if you don't have a servicer helping you, that's where you want to be a little cautious. If you're collecting your own payments, you're sending bills, you're talking to students about their delinquency, you're prompting payment, that's where you want to be a little careful. And
We
Kathy,
were,
let's see here.
yeah, we were told installments of 4 payments or more are considered a financing a loan. Is that correct? You keep referencing 12 payments.
If you're 12 payments or below, Kathy, if it's interest free and below 12 months, it's technically not regulated as a private education loan, and you're under the radar there. If your 4 installments have interest accrual, that's where you could be considered as making loans. So maybe if you have a chance, chat us again if you have any interest accrual there. And these are, you know, guys, these regulations go back to 2009 as far as the TILA disclosures, the Truth in Lending Act. So they are still, even after all this time, I see them still being a little unknown, a little bit under the radar. And a lot of schools say, hey, it's an interest-free payment plan. How can it be a loan? We're not loaning a student money, but that's truly what was changed going back to roughly 2009. The Federal Reserve amended Regulation Z, and that's when they drew the line in the sand and said, hey, if it's unfunded and it's a payment plan over 12 months, now we're calling it a loan. And so that's what kind of started all this.
Okay. And, you know, Cameron was in our chat at the very, very beginning and said, be sure to address TILA and when we need to worry about it.
That's what we're talking about here. If it's over 12 months interest free, and Kathy, you're interest free, I think what I'm reading in your chat, you're under the radar. But if you were technically speaking to go over 12 months, that's when it now moves to a private education loan. And that's where all the TILA disclosures come in. And like I said, guys, it's the doc could be 10 to 15 pages long, believe it or not. That's all the disclosures you're required. And I encourage the financing, but I just find for schools it might be cumbersome in-house to make sure you're providing the correct document. That's where getting with a servicer, a lot of schools say, hey, we can't populate all this document. We can't write everything in. We need some type of software or an ease of use to extend this financing.
We do an 11-month payment plan with a 1% interest. Are we still under radar?
You know, it's real close, Aaron. We should look at it. Because of the interest accrual, I think you're required to provide some more disclosures, so that's again, typically if it was 90 days or less and you had that 1%, you'd be good. That's considered a short-term emergency loan. But because of that interest accrual, you're kind of walking that fine line there. I can get back to you. I believe you would want to be providing TILA disclosures. And it's tough. I mean, maybe you consider waiving the interest because it's only 1%. But that interest accrual does change things, especially if it's over 90 days.
Matt, what are you seeing then? What do most schools or the big schools, because I know you have some extremely big multi-campus schools,
Sure.
have a lot of compliance departments,
Sure.
stuff. What do you suggest schools do in this area?
Sure. You know, Jen, it's funny. I've seen a push lately of schools post-COVID here. A lot are going interest free. So they're extending long-term payment plans over a year. They're private education loans, but interest free. I do see a lot of schools too offer that the best practice model I've mentioned briefly, interest free in school, and then a reasonable nominal interest rate out of school. Imagine 1 to 5%. You know, years ago, a decade ago, I saw schools wanting to charge 10 and higher percent. But nowadays, certainly I see the interest rates lower. And that's where you can get so creative with these models. I mean, imagine interest free in school, a 2% interest accrual out of school, and that's the document you sign. But guess what? If you're on auto pay and you have no declines, we'll provide you an incentive. We'll bring your 2% interest down to 0. So you can pay the whole thing interest free. But I would say for the most part, I mean, I don't see schools charging more than roughly 6% interest. I usually advise no more than 5, again, just to stay under the radar. With us, we pride ourselves, any late charges and interest as it's accrued, it goes to the school. We don't keep it anything. So that can help them, you know, with cash flow, offset any in-house costs or servicing costs. But there's also schools, Jen, like I have a 4-campus beauty school. They charge 5% interest over the life of the financing. So if the student has 6 payments, 20 payments in school and or out of school, 5% interest accrual fixed every month. And that model works too. And they kind of, their students I find are savvy and their family members, and they kind of look at it, and they have some students that pay cash that say, hey, I get that the loan's there and I can take it, but with the 5% interest accrual, we're just going to pay cash, or we're going to pay as we go. But most commonly across the board, Jen, I'm seeing some interest-free period, usually during enrollment. And most schools are offering some out of school payments, because that's what really gives you the flexibility of, let's get our student enrolled, let's get them in the class, let's help with our enrollment goals and our attrition goals. And yes, they may have 6 to 36 out of school payments, even maybe 5 years of out of school payments, but they're signing a compliant, rock solid doc. They're locking in, they're committing to those out of school payments. And then we help them with all the best practices like entrance counseling, exit counseling, these incentives, auto pay, being able to pay on your phone, text reminders. And that's where, all of these things combined, credit reporting when the student's out of school, which we spin as a positive. If you're current or on auto pay, this can help boost your credit profile, and you'll be reported as current monthly.
And that
And
all
it's a
this
huge
stuff is
collection
coming
tool.
from you guys as a servicer, correct? Like it's we don't have schools chasing down these payments, sending the text messages.
Right.
Really is the beauty of partnering with someone like you.
100%. I strongly encourage schools to be fully engaged in their financing, in the process, to know exactly what's going on, to see reports, who's on auto pay, who's our cohort that has yet to make their first payment, who's past due for this cohort. But I think, Jen, nowadays, what I'm seeing, the best practice compliant way, schools are involved, they're engaged, but they're more so, they're not collecting, they're connecting a student with their servicer. They're kind of gently nudging, especially captive students, our enrolled active students. That's really the low-hanging fruit. So I find it's best if schools are engaged, there is some type of communication there. But again, they're not presenting a bill, they're not demanding payment, they're not discussing past due or telling a student or making them maybe feel uncomfortable saying you are past due, but really just saying, hey, we want you to connect with our servicer. Please reach out to them right away and the next day or two if you can. We want to help you. You have options, a lot of positive communication there and encouraging communication, non-aggressive. But very much, I think schools, it's key to be involved, key to help someone be engaged at the campus, whether that's financial aid or student financial services or bursar, so that they really can help with those captive folks and help them before completion,
Now there are
before they're out of
risks to
school,
this,
and then
I
just
do see
working
y'all's
with us.
questions. We're going to get to them in just a second.
Sure.
Let's chat about risks when it comes to being a school that decides to offer in-house financing, because we all know there are some people that just don't pay.
100%. No, and it's that is the risk with it, guys. It's true, because typically what we're talking about here, that last financing option, it's unfunded. You're not loaning the student money. We're not. It's basically a promise to pay. The student saying, like Jen, you said, the gap's $500 or $5,000. Okay, how quickly can you pay it back to us? And the student's committing to it. So there is a risk of non-payment. Jen and I, we talked this week strategizing, and I see kind of a wide range of how strict they are. I have some school clients that will literally block a student from class due to non-payment. I don't see it a lot. I really don't. And I think those schools, they're dealing with, what's the threshold? Is it 50? If the student's $50 past due, do we block them? Is it $500? What's our threshold? But I do have some schools on the strict end that will truly block a student due to non-payment. I think most schools, Jen, They will let a student continue attending and or graduate and walk, even if they're past due on their in-house financing. But here's where truly I believe these best practices are key. If first and foremost, your financial aid or whoever is creating and securing the financing, they're key and crucial on the front end, and providing training to them and excitement. And because they're really the first introduction to the student. Hey, here's what this is. It's our in-house financing. We take it very seriously. Here's the expectations. Here's the commitment. Here's the consequences. And if you have a servicer, here's your servicer. Here's who you're going to work with and going to pay. So I think they're the key to the highway to start the process. And then from there, again, all these best practices, entrance and exit counseling, obtaining references, employer information. I love exit counseling because it will kind of show a student, here's what you've paid in school, here's what you have remaining out of school. Here's your out of school balance, here's your out of school payment amount, to really get the wheels turning in their head of, okay, I do still have this to take care of. I don't want to forget about it. And this all kind of circles back, Jen, to financial literacy and being able to put these plugs into your process of promoting planning, saving, budgeting, financial literacy, credit reporting, all these things and maybe our students never even thought about that. They've never had a bill to pay or worked with a servicer or had to pay down a loan or created a budget. So these are the things I found you can incorporate into your process to really help a student not only fulfill the payment plan, but help them fiscally for the rest of their life. So I find you can have these best practices. Yes, there's a risk of non-payment, but credit reporting is huge out of school. Your alumni, they go to buy a home or a car or refinance, that can help tremendously. But if everyone's engaged and on board and you kind of have all these processes in place, reminders along the way, I think they can be very successful and be repaid.
Are you guys then sitting down with financial aid teams and preparing them to have these initial discussions with the lead or the student?
Absolutely. We typically do thorough, robust training in person and or virtually. So everyone's confident and trained on our software. So they're using the software to basically sit down with the student and or their families in person or remotely. And then they set up the actual contract that the student e-signs.
Okay.
And again, it's the provisions and model they've set up. Some schools have tiered models where they say, well, if the gap's over $2,000, we require this monthly payment amount, a higher payment amount if it was lower than that. But they're fully trained and capable on the system to set that up. And like I said, Jen, I praise the financial aid team members we work with, and I thank them so much because they're truly, because we hear the process is a blur for students. They're signing all this paperwork, they might not read everything, it's easy to forget or overlook something. So I just find it so crucial if financial aid helps in saying, hey, you do have a payment plan, that your first payment's due in 15 days or 30 days. Here's our servicer, here's their QR code. When you receive reminders from them, it's legit. This is what you're setting up and signing right now. So I just think that piece is so crucial. And I've seen instances where some financial aid didn't do the best job on the front end, and those payments can suffer. Those defaults can be higher. On the flip side, if they're engaged and they do a great job rolling it out, those can be significantly better payers and lower defaults.
And something we didn't chat about that I do want to mention is this goes toward your 10. This goes toward your
100%. 100%.
Which is what schools have been screaming right now that they really are struggling with and need, especially kind of with these new regulations that are out. So
Yep.
Another reason why schools really need to be considering doing these payment plans. Let's go back up into the chat because we do have, of course, everyone wants to know if they're under the radar. So, so let's chat about that.
I think Robert's under the radar.
Yeah, Robert has one. And Robert is a new client of ours. Welcome to being a Beauty Schools Marketing Group member. So glad that you're on. We have interest-free payments, no more than 50 weeks on all programs in Florida. They are under the radar.
Yeah, you're close. You're close.
Okay.
It's again, Robert, that's the line. 12 months, over 12 months. That's where you get into the private loan territory. The gray area is if the student misses a few payments and then they get to completion and then the plan technically is over 12 months, you didn't know that on the front end, but I think you're good, Robert.
And then Judy, we do a 12-month and a 15-month payment plan, 0 interest. Would we need to issue
Judy,
disclosures?
it's tricky. You're so close, Judy. The 12-month is good. The 15-month, anything over 12. Technically, that's a private education loan, believe it or not, even though it's interest free.
Even with 0 interest. Okay. Yeah.
Correct. But we can, you can get help you can still have those plans. You're just encouraged and required to provide the disclosures, the extra paperwork that the student sees and signs, those TILA disclosures included.
Nicole, what is the name of Matt's company?
UNISA.
I guess I did a poor job introducing you.
UNISA, UNISA. I'll type it in there.
Perfect. Maybe put your URL in there too, so people can check out.
Yeah, for sure.
On that, does the system also provide the exit counseling and financial literacy to go over with the student by the FAT member?
Yes, Lauren, and that's what's so cool to me too about the origination process and specifically entrance and exit counseling, because it's all custom. It's just like your program. So I have schools that we've built this entrance and exit counseling. Usually it's multiple choice questions. The student has to answer them correctly to proceed. But this is where you can really put in these tips of budgeting, planning, saving, credit reporting. Is there a late fee? What's the payment grace period? When am I actually considered late? After how many days? So this is what's really sharp, because really it's not a formal financial literacy program or training, if you will, but it's putting in these words and phrases and tips to hopefully get the wheels turning in a student's head to say, gosh, you know what, maybe I should create a budget, maybe I should work on this. And within exit counseling and entrance counseling, we've helped even schools show budgeting 101, showing a student a graph of here's your necessary, essential, and optional expenses, and kind of show them, hey, if you can edit or reduce your optional expenses, that will make room for your payment, your monthly payment plan, or your monthly loan payment. So that's where I get really excited about it, Lauren, because it's not a formal financial literacy program, but it's very much promoting it, trying to get the wheels turning in a student's head. Gosh, I've never even thought about monitoring my credit. I should check that out. I should Google that. I'm gonna maybe go to Credit Karma or all these firms out there that now offer credit monitoring.
Great. And then Tessa asked the question that we chatted about Monday.
Yeah.
Because I asked the same question. I'm like, wait a second. Can you withhold their license if they don't pay off their balance in time? Let's chat about that, because it sounds like no in some places, and then some schools are deciding yes. What is the law?
It's changing right in front of our eyes, Tessa. It's a great question. I would ask where you're located if you want to type that in or chat offline, but it's really tricky, guys.
Florida.
It's Florida. Yeah. I would say you can. I think some schools are, but it's becoming the rarity to me. I think more and more schools. I talked to a barber school in Colorado this week, 3 campuses. They let their students walk even if they're past due. Their strategy is they're hopeful they'll get a job, they'll get income, and they can then start to pay down the payment plan or loan again. The CFPB came out with that, discouraging withholding transcripts from a student, even if they owe you money, if they owe you a payment plan or you're past due. That's still kind of this gray area, because attorneys are saying, well, the CFPB can't determine what's illegal and lawful or not. But I'm seeing more and more schools, Tessa, just to be safe, to caution on the safe side, to not hold or block anything. And it's very hard. It's a very challenging environment we're in, because the regulations are at an all-time high, and your tools to collect are being lessened and hindered. But You know, I'm happy to do some more research, Tessa, for Florida and see what we can find, and I can share it with you or Jen. But I'm not seeing many schools do that nowadays. But it's so hard because I get it. It's your true consequence. It's the true motivator to get paid. You know.
Add Kentucky in there for Judy. She's the chat. You're gonna have a lot of people reaching out to you, Matt, just to do some research.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Which of course Matt would love. No, I think this is really great. If people do want to work with you guys, let's chat about your services. Let's chat about different ways
Yeah.
that schools can work with you.
Of course. Well, we truly, the beauty of it is we're a smaller firm. We pride ourselves on low pricing and a high level of customization and service, rarely found in the financial services industry nowadays. So we truly have the ability to create the custom financing program of your dreams, like we've talked about, to meet your needs, all the provisions you're looking for. We can create it for you, typically at no cost. We get it set up. We help you roll it out as far as training goes, getting all your folks access and being comfortable with making payment plans and or loans with your students. And then we service it from day one. I find it's funny, Jen, because I work with schools that are still in house, and some
Yep.
can do a great job. But I work with so many I've heard over the years that say, gosh, Matt, I was managing dozens or hundreds or even thousands of accounts. I couldn't, some months we forgot to send out reminders, or we didn't have the staff to do it, or we had turnover issues. So I think that's the beauty of considering partnering with a servicer, because it ensures your due diligence, that all the reminders are going out timely, everything's automated. There's never a month of missed bills or communication or reminders. I find it's best to use all communication outlets and reminders. So a bill or e-bill in the mail, a text reminder, an email reminder, a phone call reminder. And still today, I work and survey students all the time. They say, hey, I'm all text now, or I prefer email, or I actually prefer a bill in the mail, or I prefer a phone call. So I think that's what's really nice partnering with a servicer like us, because we are providing reminders in all those different ways to students and kind of meeting the needs of and personalities of all our different students there.
Guys, I cannot stress this enough. You need to be allowing a third party company chase these people for payment so that your FA reps can be packaging new students. Like, come on. We need to be moving financial aid up in the process. We need to be enrolling people quicker, and we need to be putting off this sort of busy work to other people, to another company that can take it for you. That's how I feel about it. Matt, I just put your email address in the chat, because I know that people are going to want to reach out to you directly. So if you guys have questions, you want to work with Matt and his company. And again, I do love Matt's company. There are other companies out there that also
Absolutely.
do that. They're not the only ones. So honestly, check a few of them out. But I think Matt's the best. So,
Thank you, Jen. And even guys, if you just want to chat, if you want to strategize, and we don't even have to, partner. Just here's what we're thinking. It's my passion and expertise. I love helping schools. I truly have seen financing be a win-win for schools and students. And imagine your student that, they're basically getting a crash course on repayment before a potential federal loan kicks in. So, it can help your school again with enrollment, cash flow, reduce attrition, all the good things to help your school, but also help a student. Hey, we're giving you a chance to pay interest free. You're working with a servicer. You're planning and saving and budgeting for that upcoming payment. And I've seen it change a student's life where they say, gosh, I'm ready for my federal loans now. Like, bring it on. We got this. I took care of my payment plan. Now I'm ready to tackle my federal student loan. So that's kind of the goal.
That's great. Something, Matt, that I've talked a lot about with admissions training, even in marketing, is when it comes to students enrolling, you guys, there's been lots of studies done over higher education about why people don't enroll or their top hurdles. The top two concerns that consistently come up about, why people don't enroll, or what are their top concerns before enrolling? It's, can I get financed and can I get a job? Those are the top two.
Mm-hmm.
And blows my mind as the marketer that I am that schools are not addressing these. Instead, they're like, oh, we have these awards. We have amazing educators. I'm like, y'all, the top two things are, can I get financed? And can I get a job? Those are the top two. And so if you could just create some marketing collateral, a really great folder that talks about your financing options, like it's just, we put all this emphasis. I have lots of brochures for schools on my desk because I'm a brochure queen. I love marketing. And it's always all about the programs. And there's one little page that says financial aid is available to those who qualify. It's like, that's it. We're not telling them anything else. And I'm like, oh my God, this is their top concern. We have to be meshing financial aid into that enrollment process a lot better.
Sure. I love it. I love it, Jen. And we've had schools recently do, like you talked about the brochures, posters, flyers, business cards, QR codes are huge. But just again, as part of that origination process, hey, pull out your phone, scan the code. Here's where you pay. Here's the benefits of the program, especially if you're doing an incentive. The one beauty school I work with, I mentioned the 4 campus, they offer a 2% interest reduction if a student's on auto pay. We have that on posters, on flyers, in the document. So it's really gets everyone excited during enrollment and origination. Hey, you're signing for this percentage, but guess what? If you're on auto pay, it'll be 2% less. So everything you're signing here, it'll be less if you're on auto pay. That's all you have to do.
We really need to do a better job. And that to me is a selling point for your school. If you are someone that offers in-house financing, 0% interest while in school, I mean, these are all really, really great things to be sharing, even with leads. Oh my gosh, Michael, where were you an hour ago when Matt and I were on the phone? We've been really talking all morning about this, but let's talk.
This is good.
Because he brought up something great. Let's talk for a second about private loans. Okay. Yep. Your lead, your student going to the bank and taking out a loan to cover their tuition. First of all, you do bring up a good point. I'm surprised. What Michael says is he's surprised that not many businesses, not many people indicated in our poll that they're doing this. I am pretty well connected with school owners. I texted a whole bunch today. I have been asking people this past week about it. For one, what I am hearing is a lot of times their credit scores just aren't great. So they just don't qualify. Sure. And then in other cases, their credit scores are so low that their interest rates are so high. And schools feel somewhat, Matt, a responsibility to
100%
not push someone. They almost feel responsible to be like, oh my God, you really shouldn't be taking out a loan if it's 18% or something, astronomical.
Sure. And further, Jen, if I may, Michael, it's a great question. The private student lending has almost dried up. Wells Fargo was a player. They exited the business completely in 2021. One of our main banks out completely. So it's interesting. There's truly not many options out there. Jen and I
about Sally Mae, because some people do use Sally Mae. And of course, I'm talking more about just using private loans that can go toward, their shopping addiction or school. It can go toward anything. But specifically when it comes to educational ones, I mean, Sally Mae seems to be the main one I hear. But to your point, Matt, you said that you've been talking to schools and it's hard to get approvals for those today.
Yeah, I worked with the school this week. They said they get one approval, maybe a month or every even 2 months. So they said it's just not really a feasible option for them. Like Jen said, typically the credit score requirement's not there. But I didn't quite realize how severe it is. I spoke with 2 beauty schools this week and they said, the private loan really isn't even an option anymore, a funded private bank loan. Aaron just typed in a question too. Yeah.
About Aaron said some major credit cards have educational loans now, like Discover. I've not heard that. That's interesting.
Yeah. You know, like Wells Fargo, the institution had to be approved or partnered with the bank. So there's some caveats, some things to look at there. You know, just like federal student loans too, origination fees, like Jen said, maybe a higher interest accrual based on a credit score. But it's definitely something to look at. And I was surprised to see so many schools that I talked to this week just to say, gosh, it's not even a real option now. And Michael, like your comment, you'd think that's an option there. But it almost seems like personal loans are even more pertinent now because so many banks don't even offer funded private student loans.
You know, I talked to a school owner today. She owns three schools. And we were talking about the private loan thing. And she said she is just constantly afraid of, you know, lawsuits and class action lawsuits. And almost telling people, go to the bank, go to the bank, go to the bank. And then you have all these people graduating with huge interest rates. And she's like, I just feel as an owner, someone who really wants to see people succeed with their license, and not have huge repayment. I don't want them to have a bad taste in their mouth about my school and to come back and be like, this person told me to go down to the bank and get this giant loan with this huge interest rate. Now I can't pay it off. And I appreciate the heart of that. So I think at the end of the day, there's no right answer, but there's a lot to weigh. And I think, you know, when you're a school, you need to be thinking about the best interests of your students. No, you know, none of us want our students to graduate with huge debt that they can't repay. That's not the goal of an institution.
Absolutely.
Do we have anything else in the chat? If you guys have questions, we have just a couple minutes. Please put them in. I always say if you have compliments, you can add those too. We really appreciate you coming on. Rhonda says that she's been pronouncing the name of your company wrong, and I was too before. Oops. So it's nice.
I got you guys.
UNISA.
UNISA. You got it. Yes.
UNISA. Love it. No, this has been really great. Thank you so much for being on our webinar today.
Thanks, everybody.
Now, just a reminder, like all of our webinars, you all will receive a link, not tomorrow as usual. It's actually going to be on Tuesday. You're going to get that link. The person who sends them out, she's on vacation right now for the long weekend. So we will get that link out to you next week. It'll be a recording of this. It'll also be on our YouTube channel. And we have monthly webinars and all of them are recorded. So please go check out YouTube, go check out all of our past videos. We have some really, really great content out there. Thank you all so much for joining us today. I feel smarter, Matt, after talking to you. You just taught me so much.
Thank you guys so much. Jen, it was amazing. Thank you.
It's been great. Thanks again. You all have a great long weekend.
Have a great weekend, guys.
Bye.
Thanks all.